We're now going to zoom in to that simple columnar epithelium that lines the stomach. So it's this stuff right here, and all along, you can see it dip down into that gastric gland of the stomach. So we're in the stomach. This is simple columnar epithelium with goblet cells and a bunch of mucus cells. This is a very protective, like up here, the stomach does not digest itself because of this protective layer up on top here. So it's pretty cool. There's just layers of like alkaline mucus that keep the stomach from digesting itself. And the reason it might digest itself is these gastric glands produce a whole bunch of stuff that's pretty intense. So this is a gastric pit, leads to a gastric gland. So the pit is kind of like, if you look at it from the top, you can see pits, and then the gland is the whole shebang. So gastric gland is like this whole gland. The pit would technically be kind of this top part here. Let me actually do that like this. And the pit is the part you'd see looking, if you look like onto the surface of the stomach. So let's start with the pit and then move down. We're gonna look at the cells that are in the gastric gland and pit. These are all simple columnar epithelial cells, but then they have specializations. They can do different things. This here, most of these look the same. There's slightly different types. There are some along this pit here that are mucus cells. So mucus epithelial cells. Let me make sure I don't call them something else somewhere else that I want to, yeah, it's fine, mucus cells. They're gonna secrete a thin acidic mucus that it's kind of unknown what its function is, but it likely protects the gland itself from enzymes and other breakdowns. So probably is like protective for the rest of the gland. Actually, before we dive down, what's all this stuff? This is our lamina propria, right? That areolar tissue. I'm going to label special cell types you need to know in a different color. So this is a specialized epithelial cell type, mucus cells. Now we can go ahead and dive down into our gastric gland. Gastric pits lead to gastric glands. The gastric glands is what produces gastric juice. Gastric juice is your stomach juice. Acidic, you know, you've tasted it. Mucus, HCl, also some hormones, pepsinogen, intrinsic factor. We'll get to all those. Basically, it's acidic and mucusy. And we're going to label 3 cell types in here and look at what each of them does. That will give you the idea of what is produced in the gastric gland. So first of all, we've got parietal cells. These in this picture, maybe I'll be consistent here and actually use orange. These are the orange ones shown here. They're all along the glands here. These are parietal cells. These are going to secrete HCl, hydrochloric acid, and intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is for absorption of vitamin B12, which is one of the things that can be absorbed in the stomach. Intrinsic factor helps with that. HCl, I'm going to star that in a little bit because that's the more important one for us here. I'll star it now. Okay, then we've got chief cells. We'll do that next. The pink ones all along there, also all along this gland. Pinkish, salmon colored. These are chief cells. they are going to secrete pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is a precursor to pepsin that is going to break down peptides. And this is pretty cool. You see what activates pepsinogen? I'm going to change it to orange. It is activated in acidic conditions, so HCl. So the function of the parietal cells here. Okay, last cell type are those yellow ones. These are hormone producing cells. The more technical name for those are enteroendocrine. Oops, let's put a space there before. So enteroendocrine, enteric, right? That's for the enteric nervous system, referring to the stomach, and endocrine. So these are going to secrete hormones and paracrines, two different things, but not really, right? Those are just chemical messengers that either go into the bloodstream or act locally in the stomach and around the cells nearby. So the biggest one I want you to know is going to be the G cells. These secrete gastrin. We'll talk more about gastrin. Let me get my star color to just highlight the things that are most important here. So I already starred HCl from the parietal cells. I don't know what they are. We'll do this HCl from the parietal cells, chief cells, pepsinogen, and G cells, which are a type of enteroendocrine cells, produce gastrin. Did we get it all? Just this will come back, but that acid, the HCl, it also breaks down proteins. It denatures proteins, as well as an acidic environment can kill bacteria, all kinds of useful stuff. There is about 3 milliliters of gastric juice produced per day under normal conditions, but it's going to be regulated by neural and hormonal activity. And so we'll see that regulation of gastric juices as needed.